I guess as far as saying that they probably would not have stopped here if they hadn't noticed Chris's wood yard. Well, before Chris was here, I had piles upon piles of logs stacked on the concrete here, clearly visible from the road, and I was over halfway across the concrete usually with my piles of logs. So the chances of them actually stopping here, even if it wasn't for Chris's monstrosity piles of wood, they probably still would have stopped here and asked me if I wanted more logs. So here in the barn, I have cages lined up all the way down the front, and then I have a bunch in here. Now, before Chris was here, I had wood piled in this all the way down to my lawnmower. And then on this side here, I had this piled full, kind of like that is now, which that's what I haven't gotten out of there. I had that piled full all the way down to here. And I did have the intent of buying more cages as I could, because at that point in time, I didn't have the contact for getting my cages of what I do now. And I was buying them slowly so that I could put wood in them to bring it in here, so that way it was less handling. I could stack the totes full, and basically I could take them from here up to my woodshed and basically burn. Well, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but I mean, the reason I got the deal for bringing in all these loads of logs is for myself, for making some boiler wood, because there's 44 totes here. I have 25 totes in the barn that is all cut-offs from what Chris produced in the last 2 to 2.5 years that he was here. And I burned 8 totes last winter, kind of threw some in periodically throughout the winter. So of all them totes would be, well, I got it written down. So that would be 77 totes total, and there's about 4 totes to a cord. So that's equivalent to just over 19 cord of wood. Well, I burn anywhere from 15 to 18 cord a year for heating my house, depending on the winter. I mean, last winter was a little bit of a mild winter, so we didn't burn as much, but years prior, when we've had a harder winter, I've burned anywhere from 15 to 18 cords. So I was looking at it as, I'm gonna need some boiler wood, so I got a deal to get some logs brought in, and I can make some boiler wood on it. I was going to sell stuff that Chris would actually be bringing in regardless for his wood business side. And I looked at it as, he said countless times in videos that there's bundles, there's, like, I guess you could say like campfire wood or bundles, roadside stand, and boiler wood, stuff that he said he's never wanted to go after or had the time to do. So I was looking at, I had as trying to find a way that I could do a little bit of a firewood business on my side to make myself a little bit of money and not step on his toes, because he said that, maybe eventually when he decided he'd want to retire from doing the firewood, that we could take over his firewood business. But I was looking at ways that I'd be able to expand it so when I took it over, it would be bigger. But apparently me bringing in loads, he was looking at it as I was trying to steal his firewood business, which I was not. And he knew I had loads coming in, so he kind of, I guess, deliberately, while I was not here, had them put the loads on his side, paid the truck driver, did whatever. I mean, if he wants to take the wood, he can take the wood. So when I had the first couple loads that had come in, the one day I did come out, and Chris was here, I went to talk to him. And when I walked over to talk to him, he started screaming at me that I was trying to steal his firewood business, which I was not. But, I tried to explain to him, this was a deal I had got to bring in a bunch of loads of logs. Obviously, that, the cutoffs wasn't going to be enough for me for heating my house every year. So I was looking at it as I was going to be able to make myself some boiler wood. I would take and sell him the stuff that he'd bring in. And I was going to, go after, I was going to do some wood. I was thinking about putting a roadside stand by my house. It might be a while before I get to doing that, and I was, gonna go after some boiler wood. I mean, so I did put a posting out there with for logs, and I had two guys that contacted me that wanted a cord of logs. One guy wanted just a cord of logs, and then I had one guy that wanted a cord of logs cut to 20 inch, which he wanted to split it because he likes to split, but he didn't like to cut. And then I had another guy that came and got the other 8.5 cords that I had, which was nice because it gave me some money to take care of some medical bill stuff that, from what my wife had going on. So that was taken care of, and I was looking at, okay, well, that was taking care of most of what I had here for logs, other than the stuff that I sorted out of the loads that was stuff that Chris would want. And I was looking at it as, okay, well, there's some more that'll be coming, depending on where they were working. And, some of the landowners actually wanted the logs where they were working. The landowner was keeping them, but where the landowners didn't want the logs, they were having to get rid of them. So they were going to be bringing them here. So it was just a matter of time before they got this way far enough where the landowners didn't want the logs that they were going to bring them here. So that's kind of how that all started. But I guess it is what it is. I mean, I can't change anything now. And as far as trying to work anything out for Chris to stay here, that is by far long gone, shot in the butt, because I am not going back on having him move, because it's one of them. It's, you disrespect my family, I'm not going to stand for it, and I'm going to start doing my own thing. Yes, it was nice being able to use some of his equipment, and using his equipment, yes, there was one summer that he said that I used his tractor more than he did. I'm not going to say that I didn't, because I did. It was one of them. They needed the extra loader at the main farm for the summer, so that was there. And then the turbo blew on the skid loader, so that was in the shop getting fixed. So I ended up with the Massey here that winter for pushing snow. And anytime that I used Chris's tractor extensively, it was not all of his fuel. He was not paying for the fuel, because if I used it extensively, I put fuel in it. I have a 55-gallon drum that I always have in the shop that has fuel in it. I would put fuel in his tractor. When he first brought the processor here, I fueled the processor. So if I was running boiler wood for myself, I would put fuel in the processor. I would mark where the tank level was, and I'd fill it back up to at least that, if not more. And I guess if he wants to say that he was paying for all the fuel, I guess if he wants to say that, he can. But it was my feeling that if I used it that extensively for myself, I was going to put fuel in it. And I'm not one of them that's going to try to screw him out of fuel, because yes, the lawnmower, I did a lot of mowing in the back, not this last year, because he said he was going to take care of it, but the year prior, I did a lot of mowing back here in the wood yard, and I never asked him for gas. I never used his gas for that. I basically used my own fuel mowing the wood yard, because I know what it looks like in his videos, that it looks like crap if it's not mowed and it's not trimmed. So I was doing him a favor. I was keeping it maintained. I would plow snow out of the wood yard in the wintertime just because I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And I was trying to keep it clear because he's not here all the time. So he'd show up to get wood. He was able to get to his bins. He was able to process wood. He wasn't getting here, spending hours removing snow to not get anything done. So that was kind of one of them where it was something I enjoyed doing. Didn't mind helping out, but I mean, in the long run, when you're getting treated like crap, I guess it's times. So if it takes a little longer for him to move his stuff, I'm not against that. It's just he needs to communicate with me, because it's been well over a month and a half that he hasn't talked to me, and I had sent him a message about getting some wood moved off the concrete that's been sitting on there since spring, just so that I had some space for processing my own wood. And he responded back with me on that message as yup, thinking that, okay, when he's here one of the days, he would take care of it. Not expecting an hour later for my buddy Adam to show up to move it. That is not how that was supposed to go. If he was out of town on a hunting trip, all he had to do was look at me, or just send me a message and say, hey, I'm out of town. I'll take care of it when I get back. If you need it moved before then, you could have told me what bin to put it in. I would have done it. I'm not that way. But I'm getting to be more and more sour and bitter with it for the simple fact of lack of communication. And if you're going to keep treating me like crap and being disrespectful and not communicating with me with things and using my friends against me, I guess, per se, I can get to be that guy, and I can literally tell you that you have 30 days to get your crap and get out. But I don't want to be that guy. And so many people seem to think that that's the way I am, that I'm just I'm going against Chris and I'm being mean to him and all the things he's done for me. Yes, he maybe got me started on doing a YouTube channel. Yes, that's fine. I'm the one that put in the work to consistently put out videos to get to that point of having a consistent viewership of my videos. And you know, a lot of people can always say that, oh, well, I got you this. I got you into doing that. Yes, but you know what it usually comes down to is the person that's doing it is the one that is actually keeping it going and pushing. And if they don't put in the effort, they're not going to get anything in return. So here you can see this is the pile of baskets, or I should say cages, that I have here that have the wood in. Okay, now we have our concrete wall bunkers. I bought half the blocks. Chris bought half the blocks. I'd have absolutely no problem paying him for his half of the blocks, because it is nice having this for putting the slash in. Usually I always had wood chips on this side, but we haven't done very many tree jobs this year, so I don't have a bunch of chips in there. So I can always use that, fill it up with slash on both sides if I have to, and then take it down to the woods. So you can see my normal area that I pile my totes. Well, it got to be a little bit too many over there. I couldn't get any more, and I had 2 loads I had to go and get this week. So I got them sitting here for right now. This has happened to be where I offloaded them. I do have some that I have to sort out, pick out. I do have a big load of some that are going to be going out hopefully sometime here in the next week or so. So they're just going to sit here for right now. I do have some rearranging I want to do. I want to maybe move my 330s from where they are, find a different spot for the 330s, and then I'll just use that area over there for all the 275s. And eventually, obviously, I'm going to start using a bunch more of them. So I'll have a bunch of them I'll have to get pulled apart and cut up so that way I can make my bins. So we are going to basically leave these here. They'll probably sit here for a couple days and then I'll get them taken care of. But my main focus right now is I want to try to get as much cut and split as what I can. And I have my tote here, which has got my really nasty, ugly stuff that'll end up in my boiler, and some punky stuff. And I've been filling a bin over there. My sawdust tote's working great. And as of right now, I'm trying to do half of a cord cut split every other day. So I'm just going to keep chugging along. I'm going to build up my inventory. That way I have more wood to start selling. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.